So in about 1 minute, you guys are going to see the show start. You're going to hear some news, music. You're going to see me standing here. We're going to start talking about how things are going right now in Iran, and we're going to be off to the races. I'm going to keep you guys up as much as I can, probably right here. So the big show will air over here or over here, and then that way you guys can hang out with this point of view. But if you're watching on television, you won't see any of this behind the scenes stuff. Or your friends won't. You guys are watching it right here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's very true. It's not fun when you have to look at your phone when you're driving, which you shouldn't do because it's illegal. Who's lying? Why has the mainstream media not talked about this? What are you talking about? I want to know. Oh, Dark Drizzle? Dark Drizzle, I think it's pronounced. All right, we got 15 seconds to game time. This is when I get kind of nervous, so I'm just going to lock in here. Have a good show, everybody. We'll see you in just a second, okay? Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight we are marking a week since the war in Iran first started, and the barrage of strikes from Iran and Israel are not only continuing, they are expanding. We've got the latest from on the ground in Tel Aviv. Plus, Lebanon now becoming the new front in this war as the Israeli military orders strikes on Beirut, targeting what they say are Hezbollah sites. All this as President Trump says he wants a role in choosing Iran's next leader, and he makes clear that there will be no deal with Iran unless it is unconditional surrender. Plus, the focus is on Iran right now, but could Cuba be next? What we are learning about Trump's new comments where he hinted that Cuba could fall soon. Then, a month into the search for Nancy Guthrie, investigators are now asking neighbors if they had internet issues the night of Nancy's disappearance, why they are looking into a possible blackout, and a path of destruction in the Midwest as severe storms and tornadoes rip through communities.
Look at the freaking debris, dude. Oh my God. Oh my sweet God, dude.
A look at the aftermath as more severe weather is in store for millions heading into the weekend. And tonight, the fighting in the Middle East continues as the president calls for Iran's unconditional surrender. And now we're exclusively learning that the president is privately showing some serious interest in putting U.S. boots on the ground in Iran. It comes after Iran's foreign minister told our Tom Yamas yesterday that they are confident they could counter a U.S. ground invasion. Meanwhile, the United States and Israel pushing back in their attacks on Iran, with scenes like this playing out all across the country. That massive explosion rocking a community near an airport in Iran, the driver throwing it in reverse to try to avoid all that smoke. Explosions in Tehran literally turning the night sky orange at times, while daytime strikes reducing places like a police station in northern Iran to rubble. But Iran's military has been busy as well today. Qatari defense officials saying they intercepted 9 out of 10 drones sent by Iran just today. Meanwhile, the IDF released new video of strikes on underground bunkers that span several blocks used by the now dead Ayatollah and other leaders of the Iranian regime. Israel also pummeling parts of Lebanon, including the capital of Beirut, in a parallel campaign against Hezbollah. This sound becoming more and more familiar to people living there. And as the war officially hits 1 week, the death toll has now crossed over 1,000 people. The United States identified 6 service members who were killed. Officials say over 100 people have been killed by Israeli strikes. And in Iran, state media says over 900 people have been killed by Israeli and American strikes. Now let's bring in NBC's Richard Engel, who is in Tel Aviv, Israel right now. Richard, the president is demanding unconditional surrender from Iran. What could that look like, especially if Trump is seriously considering putting boots on the ground in Iran right now?
Well, it looks very open-ended, frankly. Unconditional surrender of a sovereign country. You're asking them to lay down their arms, to agree to terms, something that I have never seen in conflict. Normally, conflicts end in some sort of negotiated settlement or a truce. It sounds like he's asking sort of what Japan did after atomic weapons were dropped on them, where they just raise up the white flag. So an unconditional surrender to a sovereign country that has just had its leaders killed and which is under attack is a very tall order. And it means that this conflict could last far more than the several weeks that President Trump initially laid out.
And Richard, I know that the air raid sirens have been going off throughout the day in Israel all day. Are drones and ballistic missiles still getting through right now?
Not really. There have been many sirens, many alerts over the course of the day. I've lost count, actually. I think there's probably been about 10 or so since the morning. We went to a site here in Tel Aviv on the outskirts of the city that suffered some damage. So there have been ongoing assaults, but most of them have been quite ineffective. They've been shot down. They've missed their targets. This city, this country are very well protected. That's partly because of the air defenses, also because Iran is not able to fire as many missiles and drones as it has been. According to CENTCOM, the amount of fire coming from Iran is down dramatically, about 90% with some of those weapons. A lot of the effective fire from Iran's perspective is being directed both at the Gulf states, where they don't have as many air defenses as Israel does. Israel has been at war many times. It's been at war with Hamas. It's been at war with Hezbollah. People here are used to this kind of thing. Buildings are built with shelters. There's a lot of people, a lot of places where people can go. The Gulf, if you've been there, lots of high rises, lots of glass towers, lots of apartment buildings, many tourists. It is not built for war. And they're suffering much more damage there. Now air defense systems are coming in. American warships are there. There are American bases there that are primarily being targeted. They are protected, but the cities that they are where they're housed are not nearly as protected as the bases themselves.
And Richard, we're also learning that Iran is getting some help from Russia. What do we know about that?
So multiple sources say that Russia is helping with intelligence, helping Iran locate certain American military assets in the region, which could help in their targeting. And frankly, it's not terribly surprising. The United States is helping Ukraine to target Russia. It is helping with intelligence. It is helping with weapons. Iran and Russia have weapons collaboration. Those Shahid drones, those one-way drones that Iran is using all across the region now, they use ballistic missiles as well, but a lot of the damage that is being done are by these drones that Iran has huge stockpiles of. They're quite inexpensive, unlike ballistic missiles, which are difficult to launch. They're expensive to build, and by definition of the kind of weapon it is, you're not going to have that many of them. The drones you can produce in, I don't want to say limitless, but an almost limitless supply. Iran was supplying a lot of those to Russia, and that was proved to be very helpful for Vladimir Putin in his war in Ukraine, because Russia started running low on ammunition, started running low on artillery, started running low on ballistic missiles. So they switched to these Shahid drones. By the way, the U.S. is now using its own version of a Shahid, a low-cost drone that it borrowed from these two countries. It saw what Russia was doing, how effective they were in Ukraine. It knew that Iran had them. Now the U.S. has its own model that it is firing against Iran. So the drones are a major factor. But going back to the cooperation with Russia, I think it's perhaps the most significant development of the day. It is a very important new piece of intelligence, new piece of information, because we've talked thus far about this war going regional. And it already has gone regional. It went regional within the first few minutes when the U.S. and Israel began these attacks. Iran responded by attacking Israel and attacking other countries in the region. Now Lebanon is involved. This is truly a regional war. But the Russian factor, with the Russians providing intelligence to help Iran target American assets in the region, has the potential to, well, not has the potential to, brings this war to an even wider scope.
Richard Engel out there in Israel for us. Richard, thank you. Now let's bring in NBC News' Courtney Kuby, whose new reporting suggests that the president is seriously considering putting boots on the ground in Iran right now. Courtney, your exclusive reporting about the president. What exactly are your sources saying right now?
Yeah, so this is not a massive ground invasion like I think a lot of people think of when they hear the term boots on the ground. I think there are, echoes of the invasion of Iraq in 2003 with more than 100,000 troops. This, in fact, is a serious conversations that the president is now having about sending smaller contingents of U.S. troops on the ground there as this war progresses. Now, Gadi, you can some of the potential things that the U.S. could be used. We talk a lot about the possibility for using troops for on the ground for regime change because it's just so difficult to inflict regime change from the air. But there are also other possible strategic uses for ground troops that the president is apparently discussing, according to the multiple officials who we spoke with about this. Think of some of the things that he has spoken even publicly about, talking about how he wants to have an agreement with Iran similar to the one with Venezuela, where there's an agreement about Iranian oil. So at this point, again, this is all just discussion. But again, the officials telling us that he has been very serious about his discussions about the possibility of sending U.S. troops to Iran.
And there are officials who oftentimes talk off the record or on background, and then there's the White House official response to some of this back and forth. What's the White House saying right now?
Yeah, we did get a statement from the White House in response to our reporting. They said the story is based on assumptions from anonymous sources who are not part of the president's national security team and are clearly not read into those discussions. President Trump always wisely keeps all options open, but anyone trying to insinuate he's in favor of one option or another proves they have no real seat at the table. But Gadi, the president has kept his options open publicly and privately. And again, these officials tell us this is something he is seriously considering right now. Not in the immediate. Right now, they are very focused on the air war, but something he is very seriously considering as part of this conflict.
And yesterday, we also heard the Iranian foreign minister say they are ready for a potential U.S. ground invasion, almost waiting for it. If that becomes a reality, can the Iranians handle it?
It's tough to say because it depends on exactly what part of this war we may see U.S. troops on the ground. Now, I mean, and you're absolutely right. The Iranian foreign minister was almost daring the United States to send troops to Iran. Now, at this point, as I mentioned, this is very focused on the air part of this conflict. There was the several days worth of standoff munitions fired from far away, so from the sea or from aircraft that were outside of Iranian airspace. Now the U.S. has moved more firmly into this manned aircraft stage. So they're using bigger bombs and shorter range munitions. So the question is, how will all of this unfold, and could the U.S. bring troops in?
Courtney Kuby, great reporting. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, the Iran war has spilled into Lebanon, where hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing their homes ahead of a ground offensive by the Israeli military aimed at taking out Hezbollah near the Israeli border. NBC's foreign correspondent Danielle Hamamji has more.
Tonight, devastating explosions in a Beirut suburb as Israel targets Hezbollah, a paramilitary group backed by Iran the U.S. labels a terror organization.
So we are getting a first-hand look of the aftermath of one of the Israeli strikes on Beirut. It's in a densely populated area. It's part of a bombing campaign that is, for now, only escalating.
500,000 people already uprooted across the country of just 6 million, trying to escape the violence, fleeing Hezbollah strongholds in the southern suburbs, seeking refuge in central Beirut with not much more than the clothes on their back. Israeli forces send out evacuation alerts online with no timeline before a strike. A moment captured by Leila Sharour, who has 30 displaced relatives now crammed into her 3-bedroom home. We met Leila and her granddaughter in central Beirut.
When we finish? When? We want that.
You want peace?
Of course we want peace.
The new round of clashes began earlier this week when Hezbollah began firing rockets into Israel following the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Now the fighting is intensifying far beyond the capital to southern Lebanon. And there are growing fears this war will drag on no matter what happens in Iran.
And the Israeli military saying today they've struck 500 targets across Lebanon this week, including command centers and weapons depots. Gadi.
Danielle Memjen, thank you so much. And turning now to all this talk about a possible ground invasion in Iraq also is raising concerns as officials in the Trump administration are talking with Kurdish leaders about arming Kurds in the north part of the country so they can also attack the regime. The United States has a long history of working with Kurdish fighters dating back over half a century. When in the 1970s, President Nixon worked with then Shah of Iran to secretly arm Kurdish rebels through the CIA. Joining us now is adjunct fellow at the Washington Institute, Michael Knights. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. That part of history is a lot messier than a lot of people realize, from the coup to the Shah to the Iranian Revolution to now. But where do the Kurds stand in all of this today? They still don't have a state. What could we see from the north?
Well, thank you for having me. Around 10% of Iranians are Kurds. And that's about a quarter of the non-Persian ethnic minorities in the country. Around 40% of people in Iran are not Persians. They come from the various ethnic minorities around the edges. And the Kurds are one of the biggest groups. They're, of course, spread across Iraq, Syria, and Turkey as well. But the Iranian Kurds are amongst the most suppressed of any Kurdish population in the world. So there's a possibility that their resistance groups could find support from the US, from Israel, or could rise up on their own at this time when the regime is getting weaker.
And it looks like Iran has already announced officially that they were bombing some of the Kurdish positions. Is there unity among the Kurds? I mean, there are Iranian Kurds, there are Iraqi Kurds, there are Syrian Kurds, right? Is everyone on the same page?
No, they're not on the same page. They're quite distinct groups of people, even though they the publics tend to want to support each other. And they're very far away from each other, and they're quite separated often by significant mountain ranges. But the Iranian Kurds and the Iraqi Kurds are quite closely connected. And the concern for Iraqi Kurdistan is that Iran is going to blame the Iraqi Kurds if some kind of uprising begins in Iranian Kurdistan. And in the past, the Iranians have fired ballistic missiles and rockets into Iraqi Kurdistan to punish the Iraqi Kurds for basing some of these Iranian Kurdish separatists.
If there are three-letter agencies talking to the Kurds right now, other than weapons and money, what do you think the United States could be offering them for help in some sort of ground operation?
Well, if you remember, at the end of the 1991 war, US Special Forces supported the Iraqi Kurds as they broke away from Saddam Hussein. And then in 2003, again, US Special Forces based out of Iraqi Kurdistan to help liberate northern Iraq from Saddam Hussein during that war. So there's a possibility that the Iranian Kurds will provide basing to US Special Forces and possibly even Israeli Special Forces, who would support them with air power, planning, and intelligence.
Michael Knights, really appreciate all of your insight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to the latest now on what we know about that deadly strike on an Iranian girls' school. It's looking more and more likely that the United States was responsible for it. Our Molly Hunter has more.
Tonight, it looks increasingly likely that a U.S. munition was responsible for striking an Iranian elementary school, according to a U.S. official and another person familiar with the preliminary findings of the U.S. investigation. Iranian officials say the strikes killed more than 170 people, mostly children. Sources tell NBC News the U.S. is still looking into whether the strike could have been the result of bad intelligence or poor targeting. NBC News has geolocated and verified a new satellite image that shows at least 7 impacts, direct hits on the school and a medical clinic on the same compound. In the first hours of U.S.-Israeli operations Saturday morning, airstrikes hit the Shajre Taibeh Elementary School in Manab, Iran. NBC News spoke with a mother on the phone who said her 7-year-old son, Sohail, was killed in the strikes. By the time we arrived, she said, the entire school had collapsed on top of the children. People were pulling out children's arms and legs. The school was built by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps on a compound once home to a military base. But multiple people on the ground, including a former principal, tell NBC News it hadn't been an active military base in more than a decade. Weapons expert Jeffrey Lewis says the satellite imagery shows the strikes were deliberate.
When you look at these buildings that have been destroyed, do they look targeted to you?
The buildings on site were targeted individually and with incredible precision.
Also tonight, Human Rights Watch concludes the weapons used were highly accurate guided munitions. The Pentagon says it's investigating. And at a briefing this week, Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane pointed to the area where the school is located, a strike symbol near the city of Manab. Now, down the road from the school, rows and rows of tiny graves and no official claim of responsibility. Molly Hunter, NBC News.
Molly Hunter, thank you so much. And today, the White House president met behind closed doors with leaders from some of the nation's top defense contractors and then announced that they have agreed to quadruple production of the exquisite class weaponry. Now, Trump did not specify what he meant by exquisite class weaponry, but it's often used to talk about one-of-a-kind technology. But we've also seen plenty of low-tech weaponry, like interceptor drones, playing a huge role in the war so far. We also know that the United States may be in talks with Ukraine about possibly getting help building cheaper, smaller drones that could take out the types of drones that Iranians have been using against the United States, also exporting to Russia to use against the Ukrainians. And there is one Ukrainian drone maker that is getting a lot of attention for this. That, at the top of your screen, this is a little Sting made by a group called the Wild Hornets. The Iranian Shahid drone, it might eclipse it in size, but the Sting, it doesn't matter what size it is because that whole Shahid drone gets knocked quickly out of the sky there, as you can see. Joining us now is Alex Ruslan. He is the spokesperson for the group Wild Hornets. Alex, thank you so much for being with us. President Zelensky said that the United States was requesting help against these Shahid drones. Are Wild Hornets a part of that?
Well, we can't really talk about that right now. Right now, we do know that Russia has been murdering Ukrainian civilians with exactly those drones you're showing for the last more than 3 years. Thousands of Ukrainian civilians have been killed, tens of thousands injured, and we had to develop this technology, this very cost-effective technology. It costs around $1,400, as little as $1,400 for one of our Sting drones. We had to develop that because there wasn't enough aid from Western countries and to save civilian lives. These drones are being used to murder civilians every day. And, so we had to develop that, and especially the lack of U.S. aid in the last year has really forced us to develop this cost-effective technology. Ukrainians have been telling the world for years now that if Russia wasn't stopped in Ukraine, it's sort of brand of terrorism that's enabled by Iran and Iran's drones would spread to other countries, and that's exactly what's happened. And ironically, now we had to develop these drones, and now ironically, other countries are asking us for their help.
Yeah, and as you said, I mean, these drones, if I understand it correctly, most of your funding initially, it was coming from like raising money off people online that were trying to support the effort there. You were just mentioning the costs, under $2,000. How fast can you guys make these drones? How fast, if there's another place that gets the plans for these, how fast can these be produced and how quickly can they scale up?
It's a bit of a longer-term process. It's not something that can happen in a few days. I mean, as I was mentioning, Ukraine has been warning about this problem for a long, long time, and we've been open to partnerships with other countries and we still are, licensing agreements, that kind of thing. But it takes a while. It took us almost a year to develop these drones, not just trained pilots, which can take even just 3 days to train an experienced drone pilot to use this particular drone. It's just 3 days, but to actually develop an entire team is much more complex. There's a whole team that works behind every single one of these strikes, radar, navigation personnel, and so on. And that takes a while to get off the ground.
Mm-hmm. Are these drones, what is the control mechanism for these drones? Are these drones, the FPV kind of drones where you have to be somewhat close? Or are these remotely controlled at hundreds of miles away? Because it would seem as though you have to be pretty close to where either the Shahed is coming in or where they're launched, right?
Yeah, they're usually within 10 to 20 kilometers away from where the Shahed is hit, but sometimes it can be overhead. We've had lots of strikes sent to us by soldiers where they actually hit it with this kind of camera view, and then somebody's got a cell phone, they see it being blown up right overhead. So. And it actually happens that drone units are highly targeted by the Russians, so they have to be fairly close. It's not hundreds of kilometers away, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We think of the ocean analogy, like the fish gets eaten by a bigger fish that gets eaten by a bigger fish. This is the exact opposite. They get smaller and smaller, and really impressive to see the technology you guys are developing. Alex Roslin from Wild Hornets. Alex, thank you. And first Venezuela, then Iran. The question now is, could Cuba be next? It looks like there has been nothing subtle, right, about the hints that President Trump has been dropping, telling another media outlet today that Cuba is going to fall pretty soon. They want to make a deal, and so I'm going to put Marco Rubio over there to see how well that works out. All of that echoing what he said here yesterday. Listen to this.
But what's happening with Cuba is amazing, and we think that we want to finish this one first, but that will be just a question of time before you and a lot of unbelievable people are going to be going back to Cuba, hopefully not to stay.
And joining us now is NBC News analyst and former congressman from Florida, Carlos Curbelo. Carlos, great to see you. So Cuba going to fall pretty soon. I mean, what do you think pretty soon means? And what do you think that Rubio's visit is going to look like?
Gaddy, what it likely means is that the Cuban regime is at the table and that they are actually willing to give some concessions to the United States, maybe for the first time ever in terms of meaningful concessions. So the president very bullish in terms of the prospects for change in Cuba. The rumor on the Hill, and people expect news as early as next week out of Cuba, is that most of the changes for now are going to be economic in nature, meaning that the regime will remain in place. So perhaps something similar to what we've seen in Venezuela. Of course, that's going to make some Cuban Americans in South Florida and throughout the country frustrated because what the community wants to see is the regime go. But it seems that for now, the president might be content stopping just short of that.
Yeah, and NBC is reporting that the Trump administration is exploring filing charges against either members of the Cuban regime or the Communist Party. What do you think? Is this more likely to be a Maduro snatch and grab situation if it happens, or like a bomb and kill the Ayatollah situation?
No, Gaddy, I think this is a negotiation tactic by the administration. The example of what they did to Nicolás Maduro based on a United States indictment is there for the whole world to see. The Cubans know it extremely well because 32 Cubans died in that operation, Cubans who were in Venezuela protecting Maduro. So this is a way to increase pressure and to tell the Cuban leaders, we could indict Raul Castro. Raul Castro, who's 94 years old, Gaddy, he does not want to spend what remains of his life in an American prison. So this is a way to increase pressure and to show the Cubans that if they don't negotiate in goodwill, if they don't agree to whatever terms the United States is putting out, their leaders could face a similar fate as Nicolás Maduro.
Let's say they kept up the rhetoric, though. I mean, Cuba's president has been ramping up military exercises amid some of these threats. What kind of defense could Cuba actually put up?
Well, Gatti, it wouldn't be much of a contest. The Cuban military is not what it used to be 30 years ago when they still had a lot of more modern Soviet-era weapons. The soldiers, I mean, the generals do very well because they're very wealthy. They're tied into the economy. But lower officers and Cuban military aren't well compensated, so there wouldn't be very much resistance if the United States decided to pursue some kind of military action. It would probably be a very short and expedient operation.
And as you know better than I do, out there in Florida, Cuba is famously less than 100 miles away from Florida. We saw so much telegraphing with the movement of troops into the Caribbean before Venezuela. Then we saw the same type of telegraphing very early on. Things headed out to the Middle East, and then we saw the attacks on Iran start. Does that same telegraphing have to happen, or can a strike, a surprise strike, be launched from American soil?
It would be very easy, Gatti, for the United States. I mean, there's an Air Force Reserve base in Homestead. There's a naval air station in Key West, very, very close to Cuba. So the United States does have significant assets. Southcom, the command center for Latin America, South America, is in Miami. So there are a lot of military assets here if the United States needed to respond, if at some point they decided that military option was the best one. They could easily execute that with assets that are already here in this area. But Gatti, I highly doubt it is going to get to that point. There is so much economic pressure on Cuba. Fuel is running out on the island that they are very likely to reach some kind of an agreement, at least to buy the regime some time.
Yeah, let's hope something peaceful happens. Carlos Curbelo, thank you so much for joining us. And don't go anywhere. Up next, the latest on the search for Nancy Guthrie as investigators dig into the possibility of an internet outage in her neighborhood on the night of her disappearance. Plus, tensions between the Pentagon and Anthropic reaching new heights as Anthropic says it now has been declared a national security risk. More on that later this hour, so stay tuned. 90 seconds. Are we doing the pickup?
We're going to do an A9.
Cool. Ready? Let's do it. All right. We're going to do a pickup, guys, because I messed up. Good. Meanwhile, with all the talk about a possible ground invasion in Iran, officials in the Trump administration are talking with Kurdish leaders about arming Kurds in the north part of the country so they can also attack the regime. The United States has a long history of working with Kurdish fighters dating back over a half a century. When in the 1970s, President Nixon worked with the then Shah of Iran to secretly arm the Kurdish rebels through the CIA. That work? Cool. Great. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, that is what's called a pickup. Basically what just happened. 30? I'm getting suspended on TikTok for what? I'm getting, yeah, looks like TikTok. So switch over to YouTube, I guess. So that was a pickup because at the beginning, if you caught it, I said Iraq, not Iran. So we fixed that for the next pass of the show. And then we've got an update on Nancy Guthrie, and then after that, we'll chat during the commercials. And turning now to a new development in the search for Nancy Guthrie, with authorities asking people in Nancy's neighborhood about internet issues the night she went missing. Neighbors told NBC News that agents said several people in the area mentioned they had internet glitches that night, including one couple who noticed an issue with one of their Ring cameras. All of this as the Guthries continue to hold on to hope that Nancy will be found. Take a listen to what Savannah's colleagues said on the Today Show this morning.
Getting a chance to lay eyes on her and her on us, I think we needed to see her as much as.
I don't think people realize how it was. It wasn't planned. It was actually in this room. Yeah. It happened right here behind us, and it wasn't just us. It was our entire crew. There was 100 people in the room.
And she hugged every
she
single
came
one.
into the middle, no speech, spoke from the heart, said the most perfect words you could ever imagine.
NBC News' correspondent Liz Kreutz has more from Arizona.
Tonight, in the search for new clues, several of Nancy Guthrie's neighbors tell NBC News investigators returned this week, asking them about any potential internet issues the night of Nancy's disappearance. The homeowners say the agents told them several neighbors mentioned glitches with their internet that night. One of those neighbors tells us when they checked on their Ring cameras, this one here, the one closest to Nancy's property, said not available during the overnight hours of the abduction.
Here in their backyard, you can actually see Nancy's home. It's that brick house there. Experts tell us it would likely take a professional-grade Wi-Fi jammer to knock out internet all the way to the back of this property.
Here's the jammer. Hold it up here. You turn it on.
Security tech consultant Ted Nearhouse showed us how a Wi-Fi jammer can interfere with internet signal and home surveillance cameras.
And you will see it go out. So that's what it looks like. It'll say not available or something along those lines.
But Nearhouse says he's skeptical a Wi-Fi jammer was used in Nancy's abduction.
If they turned that thing on when they pulled up, you'd never have any video on any camera. So that's why I don't think anything was jammed.
Some online sleuths have pointed out it appears there could be something in the suspect's pocket. We asked the sheriff about that earlier this week.
Did he have a Wi-Fi jammer, a walkie-talkie? Have you been able to figure?
I've not looked at it that closely. But yeah, I know that my team has looked at it with the FBI, every angle.
And Gotti, neither the FBI nor the Sheriff's Department have commented on any potential internet issues in Nancy's neighborhood or said why investigators are asking residents this line of questioning. NBC News has also reached out to Ring for comment. We have not heard back. Separately, two of the homeowners we talked to said that investigators also asked them about video footage from January 11th. They continue to be interested in that date, although authorities have not said why. We do know investigators continue to look into the possibility the suspect showed up at Nancy's home prior to the abduction. Gotti.
Liz Kreutz, thank you. And if you have any information on Nancy's disappearance, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI as soon as possible. Meanwhile, extreme weather slamming parts of the South and the Midwest. At least 7 tornadoes have been reported across Kansas and Oklahoma. Take a look at what some of those funnel clouds look like. You can see some of the damage left behind. Officials in Oklahoma saying at least 2 deaths there appear to be storm-related. And NBC's George Solis has more from Tulsa.
Tonight, debris flying through the air as tornadoes, flooding, and volatile weather are on the move. In Michigan, a path of destruction, buildings completely destroyed. This store, now a shell of what it once was.
Holy crap.
Watch as strong winds rip the roof off this building. The relentless weather creating dangerous conditions for travelers, this car driving in 0 visibility. In Indiana, floodwaters swallowing up this big rig and leaving these trucks stranded with water surrounding them on all sides. At least 7 suspected tornadoes roaring across Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma, where one claimed the lives of Jody Owens and her teen daughter, Lexi. Their family tells me they were trying to get home when conditions quickly deteriorated. Jody was on the phone, warning her other children to take cover.
In her last moments, she was calling her family to let them know to get to find shelter for this tornado, and the last words that were heard were her trying to help others.
Officials say their vehicle was swept hundreds of yards off the road.
Some of my biggest regrets in this moment is not reaching out more. It's not letting her know how much she meant to me.
Many small towns across America's heartland seeing big damage.
The wind strong and severe enough to break power poles and stretch power lines like these across roadways for miles.
The destruction is widespread with the threat of more severe weather far from over.
Praying for all those families. George Solis, thank you. And coming up, honoring the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, a look at the funeral services for the civil rights activists. It was attended by thousands, including former presidents. 2 minutes. All right. Hey, we got 2 minutes to talk, guys. Wow, that was Man, Mother Nature. It's just, you never know. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to try to catch up with your guys' comments here. Weather manipulation. I don't know about that. But we actually did talk to this very fascinating company here in Los Angeles that is up to some rainmaking, and it was illuminating. I mean, look, I've read all the weather modification stuff. There's not a conspiracy theory that I have not looked into, trust me. Yeah, we're going to do a story about it pretty soon. It's fascinating. Humans and science are incredible. It's literally NBC. Wait, what did you guys, I hope so. What? Oh, let me see. What is this? This isn't real news then? Yeah, it is. This is news. Putting it together for you. And then during the commercial breaks, we talk to you. This is our studio out here in Los Angeles. The rest of the team, they are over there in New York. We're putting this together for you every single day right here on NBC News Now. 45. So make sure to tune in. 45 seconds, and then you're going to have some more news. We'll hit up a whole bunch of headlines, including Ye, artist formerly known as Kanye, in court today. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. All right, you guys ready? And then I think somebody was talking about the labor statistics. We got that coming up right now, too. You guys ready? 20 seconds. Okay, we got a little bit more. No, I'm not going to Big Mac. McDonald's. Taco Bell? That sounds good. All right, let's see here. 10 seconds. Better get back into the game here. All right, here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, they released a new report today, and the job market is not looking too great. The United States lost 92,000 jobs in February instead of gaining the 50,000 economists expected. The unemployment rate is also ticking up slightly to 4.4%. And the DOJ released some more Epstein files today. It says had been mistakenly withheld. They said that they were incorrectly marked as duplicates. These new files include FBI notes about a number of interviews a woman gave to agents back in 2019, alleging both President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein abused her when she was a minor in the 1980s. Trump has denied wrongdoing, and today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt dismissed the allegations, saying the president has been totally exonerated by the release of the Epstein files. The newly released documents do not include information about whether the agents considered the allegations credible or if they did additional work to verify or disprove the claims. And over in San Francisco, 2 men have been arrested after attacking the mayor's security team. You see that going down right there in the middle of the street. Police say those 2 members of the mayor's security detail called local police for backup after that fight with those 2 suspects, but still no word on how that fight started. And Ye, formerly known as Kanye, was in court today over the lawsuit about renovations made to his $57 million Malibu mansion. Now, the former project manager says he was not fully paid and faced unsafe working conditions while overseeing the reno. Ye's lawyers say he was paid fully, and they deny any wrongdoing. And this weekend, we get to spring forward. Yay! Daylight savings starts on Sunday at 2 a.m., where most of us will lose 1 hour of sleep if we remember to set our clocks ahead 1 hour. But on the bright side, I guess we're getting more daylight, so there's that. And today, 3 former presidents paid their respects to civil rights icon Reverend Jesse Jackson at his funeral in Chicago. And our Shaq Brewster was there.
Hi there, Gotti. Well, after more than 2 weeks of commemorations celebrating the life and legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson, tomorrow we will see his family lay him to rest in a private ceremony. But today was the public funeral service for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and we saw speakers from all types. 3 former U.S. presidents and former Vice President Kamala Harris attending the celebration. We heard from former President Barack Obama talking about how Jesse Jackson inspired him back when he was in college, saying that he wouldn't be president of the United States if it weren't for the legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson. I want you to listen to a little bit more of what we heard from President Obama himself.
Because of Jesse, the Democratic Party changed its rules ending the winner-take-all distribution of delegates during presidential primaries, which meant underdogs and outsiders like Bill Clinton or Bernie Sanders could stay competitive and build momentum instead of getting knocked out early. And it was because of that path that he had laid, because of his courage, his audacity, that 2 decades later, a young black senator from Chicago's South Side would even be taken seriously as a candidate for the presidential nomination.
Now, we also heard from several other elected leaders, including the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, as well as a wide range of faith leaders. One big message that you heard, not just from the people on stage, but also the thousands of people who came to this building, was that they want Reverend Jackson's legacy to carry on. They don't want this to just be about reflections and remembering someone that they truly revered, but they want people to pick up his call for change, pick up the policies that he championed in that coalition that he helped build with his 2 presidential runs. They want to see his legacy go on beyond just here in Chicago, but to something that we see play out across the country. Again, his family will now lay him to rest tomorrow in that private ceremony. We know Stevie Wonder is expected to perform at that. While it's invitation only, it will be streaming online. But this was the final public commemoration for the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Got it?
Shaq Brewster, thank you so much. And still to come in the future of everything, a look at a new initiative from companies who are teaming up with schools to teach students how to use AI for good.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. How are we doing on timing? 30 heavy? Okay. All right, cool. 2 minutes, 30 heavy. We'll make it in the break. How's it going? All right, what's going on? Jay? Yeah, Miss Rachel is a saint. And yeah, you got it. I hope you don't have the songs stuck in your head like I do. And my kids, poor kids. Jay, the new wood gardener. Thanks so much, that's great. Let's see, like what do you keep saying that genuine curiosity? Did I miss something here? Nope, that's not right. Check flight radar.
1 minute.
Interesting. There's a lot of monitoring of the situation going on these days, huh? We got 1 minute. We're staying at the desk?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, what do you guys think so far of the news here? Taco Bell? Sounds good. Where's your TikTok live? The TikTok live is up, but all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. It said that I was suspended. I think somebody, I don't know, reported it because they were unhappy about something. I have no idea what happened. Anyway, we saw the count drop tremendously. So right now it's, I think 300 people that are watching. But yeah, it's interesting to see what gets flagged for content moderation. This is mainstream news. I'm a mainstreamer. So we'll have to see what happened. But if you guys are watching on YouTube.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. With AI becoming a bigger part of our everyday lives. Hey, welcome back. With AI becoming part of our bigger everyday lives, it is now showing up in schools. Some worry it could make cheating easier or possibly replace certain jobs. But companies like Samsung, well, they're investing in it, teaching kids how to use AI for good, and they're bringing people in like Mark Cuban. NBC's Christine Romans gives us a closer look.
It's no secret. For kids and teens, AI is becoming part of daily life.
I use it all the time.
I use it to study sometimes. Whenever I don't know something, I can go to AI and it will just help me.
New research from Pew finding more than half of teenagers in the U.S. say they've used AI chatbots to get help with schoolwork. And most think kids at their school are using them to cheat, at least sometimes. Now, schools across the country are navigating just how to use AI in the classroom.
I kind of like it. I like it.
that 3 minutes you made a song?
Schools, governments, and businesses like Samsung looking to train the next workforce on this inevitable technology.
We really believe that AI is here to stay, and as a technology company, we have the responsibility to help students, help teachers.
In this New York City high school, an AI pep rally for the students with entrepreneurs Mark Cuban and Emma Greed.
I would take what it is that you're thinking about, what you're dreaming about, and then think about how you can layer AI on top of it to make it even better.
Cuban made his fortune betting big on the .com boom.
Is AI a tool for kids or is it a threat for kids?
It's not a threat, for sure. AI is a tool, it's a way to learn, it's a democratization of knowledge.
You're excited about this.
Oh my God.
Right.
Cuban acknowledges benefits and dangers.
There's two types of approaches to AI. Some people who use it so they don't have to learn anything, and some people who use it so they have the opportunity to learn everything.
It's why language arts teacher Tiana DiConstanzo is showing her students how AI can help them build upon their own ideas.
We don't want them to lose their critical thinking. That's the whole conspiracy behind AI, is that, oh my God, no one's going to think for themselves. But it's so much of what you put into it is what you'll get out of it.
I think it's more beneficial.
Students like junior Tristan Hamilton are well aware that the tools they're using may be changing the job market they'll enter one day.
Do you ever worry it's going to take jobs?
Oh, it looks like it.
As a young person, how are you going to combat that?
I know that's such a big discussion now. What are we going to do? Because AI is taking over. Oh my gosh, you have to be prepared. So I think it's just learning how to work alongside it.
So far, as companies integrate AI, multiple studies show entry-level jobs appear to be the most vulnerable.
Are you worried that AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, especially for young people?
Am I worried it's going to take jobs? Yes. But do I think there'll be a net gain? Yes. The kids that are in the school are so creative. You know, there's so many things that they're going to invent during their lives that we can't even imagine now.
Markers on our
Yeah, hopefully it's a better world. Christine Romans, thank you so much. Speaking of AI is also showing up in far more high-stakes situations like U.S. military operations, with some members of Congress now telling NBC News the military's potential use of AI has them worried. Now, all this comes in the middle of this beef between the Pentagon and AI company Anthropic. They make that chatbot Claude, and they've been working with the military through the data analytics company Palantir, right? Well, on Wednesday, the Defense Department officially called Anthropic a national security threat, labeling it a supply chain risk, basically blocking the United States military and contractors from using Anthropic's AI. Remember, in talks leading up to this, the Pentagon, they wanted to use Claude for any legal military purpose, but Anthropic, they said that they were drawing the line at two things: mass domestic surveillance and deadly autonomous weapons. Now, Anthropic says the first American company is them to ever be publicly labeled a supply chain risk, and it's the CEO thinks the move is not legal, saying, quote, "We see no choice but to challenge it in court." Joining us now is NBC News AI fellow Jared Perlow, who is following all of this for us. Jared, great to see you. So the government is saying Anthropic's threat to national security, but the military, they've already been using Claude a lot. And as I understand it, Claude is baked into some of these systems, like Palantir, right? Or at least some of the systems that they use. How do they extract it?
So I think it's important to say that we've seen a couple of reports over the past few days from outlets like the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, now reporting today from NBC News, saying that the Pentagon is in some way, shape, or form using Claude, which again is Anthropic's AI system, in the battle in Iran, in the war in Iran. So I think, to be honest, it's a little bit fuzzy about exactly how it's being used. You know, it is an active war zone, so people are a little bit hesitant to tell us exactly precisely how it's being used. But basically what we've heard is, if you think about intelligence or fighting a war in general, you're getting all these different sources of information from different sensors, from different people, and you're just trying to parse that. You're trying to figure out what is actually happening on the ground. And that's what a system like AI is really good for, taking huge amounts of data and basically spitting out, simple conclusions. So we've seen, or we've heard reports that it's being used for assistance, not the final decision, but assistance in target identification, in simulating battle plans, and other sorts of situations like that. So we've heard that the Pentagon is using this in almost every aspect of their warfighting right now.
And more broadly, I mean, you've been speaking to members of Congress. They seem worried about the AI's role in the military when it comes to possibly making deadly decisions without a human in the loop. What are you hearing?
Yeah, so we had some really exciting new reporting today coming from Congress. I talked to a couple members on both sides of the aisle. So Representative Sarah Jacobs of California told me that AI tools aren't 100% reliable. They can fail in subtle ways, and yet operators continue to overtrust them. And on the Republican side of the aisle, Pat Harrigan from North Carolina told me that AI is a tool that helps our warfighters process enormous amounts of data faster than any human could alone. But no AI system replaces the judgment, the training, and the experience of the American warfighter. The human in the loop is not a formality. So I think this notion of the human in the loop is key here, because we know that the Pentagon is using these AI systems now. But as I mentioned, it's a little bit fuzzy exactly where the AI systems come in the chain. So we know that human analysts and human lawyers still have to sign off whenever there's a missile launch, for example. So it's a question of where exactly is that human in that process, or the technical term, where is that human in the loop, as you just heard those representatives say. So this is a very active area of discussion. We heard a lot of members of Congress saying that there needs to be more oversight, there needs to be more action from Congress, and honestly from the American people, thinking about how do we actually want to use AI in active war theaters.
Yeah, meanwhile, the technology seems to be moving much faster than the debate. Jared Perlow, thank you so much. And coming up, it is Paralympics time at the Winter Games in Milan Cortina. A look at the opening ceremony and what to expect. But first, you got to see this. Italian semi-pro wrestler Luigi Primo adds a doughy surprise to knock out his opponent. Literally, this is something that Chris Monica, the person behind the character, has been doing for years. He's known as the pizza wrestler. That iconic move is always freshly tossed and fully loaded. I mean, lights out pizza style. Yep, that's me too. We'll be right back. Awesome. Good, good?
I believe so.
I think that's it. All right. Okay, guys. This is a part where, unfortunately, we still haven't worked out the kinks yet. So if you watch on TV, you will see the last story, which is about the Paralympics. And you'll see Emily Akita out there just being so lucky to be in Cortina right now. And if you're watching here on the stream, we haven't figured out how to show you that yet. Although we do have robot cameras. Is Artemo gonna move? Oh, look, they're moving by themselves. Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right, but yeah, we're still working out how to, route and make sure that OBS can stream all of the show to you guys. But that's the show for now. I'm going to bounce. Let's see. What did you guys say? Go to NBC News on YouTube if you want to watch the whole show as well. That's right, Sean. Man, you guys know how to do. All right. Studio City, represent. I'll probably see you around. This is a tiny little town. And what up on YouTube? Thoughts. One atom. Asymmetry. That's why we keep covering it every single day. What you're thinking is the same thing that I'm thinking, and so that's a reason why what you're talking about is a reason why we had the guy on from the Ukrainian defense drone interceptor maker. So we're thinking about that constantly. It is a very weird time, and the rules of war have been rewritten. All right, guys, we got to go. Have a great weekend. Unplug, touch grass. See you on Monday.